Hi, my name is Julie Chamberlain, and I'm the faculty scholar in assignment design for the 2023 to 24 school year. The purpose of this video is to discuss an example of how to design an assignment that asks students to think outside of the box. And perhaps more importantly, how to use this assignment to assess course objectives fairly and accurately. The goals of this assignment design will be, first and foremost, to get students to think critically and adaptively. As much as possible, I tried to veer away from asking students to simply regurgitate information on assignments and instead put them in scenarios that will ask them to think critically and assess the course objectives that I'm aiming to assess through the assignment. Secondly, I want the assignment to engage students, especially those students who maybe don't get a chance to speak up as much in class, and to challenge students to think outside of the box in ways that will hopefully bring them into the fold and challenge them. And finally, I want to make sure that the assessment for this assignment is both accurate to the course goals and fair. So I'm going to show you how I use rubrics to ensure that students know how I will be assessing them, and then to actually go and do so when I finally go to grade assignments. Before we turn to the assignment itself, I want to go through some general strategies for designing a creative assignment and assessing it. First, I'd like to echo course objectives, especially those that I've listed on the syllabus and integrated into my lectures to make sure that students are reminded of what they're actually supposed to be demonstrating when completing this assignment. I also like to make sure that assessment procedure is clear to students on the assignment sheet. So you'll see I've included the rubric I use to assess assignments on the document that students use to create. And finally, I try to establish consistency with other assignments to ensure that students know the drill when they're going through an assignment for this course, and that the assignment isn't asking them to perform things that they're unsure of the payoff for. This is a fictional scenario I ask students to put themselves in order to complete the assignment. I hope that students will find this engaging, and it will also give a real world application feel to the assignment. So in this hypothetical scenario, the students receive an email from a hypothetical boss asking them to complete a flyer for Resident Appreciation Week. This is actually based on a real scenario, but I've made it so that the students have a set of objectives that are communicated to them in email form. We read through this email as a class when we go over the assignment sheet, but I also want students to read this on their own and come to their own conclusions about what exactly are their primary and secondary goals when completing this assignment. Below that, and as is listed in the context of the email, they'll receive some information about this hypothetical Resident Appreciation Week. And importantly, I haven't listed out this information exactly in the format or with all the right consistency and wording that I think would be best for putting it on the flyer. Instead, I've done it in a cursory manner and then asked students to take this information and format it in a way that will communicate most effectively to their intended audience. So this is part of the challenge of the assignment, and we go over this in class. They will need to read through this on their own and decide what type of information actually needs to go on the flyer and where their audience might get confused. For example, on the Thursday schedule, it says that residents should send in their work orders by 4 p.m. Monday. This is a potential source of confusion, and I challenge students to come up with ways to convey this information concisely and in a way that will stand out to their audience in an appropriate manner. In case it wasn't clear to students in the hypothetical scenario, I do spell out exactly what their tasks are, and I think it is important to do so on these types of creative assignments, because the assignment is a hypothetical, but I want them to produce two specific documents. One is a flyer in PDF form, and the second is an email that will be written to their boss and go over some talking points that their boss could bring into a meeting with management and use to advocate for the flyer that their intern has created. So they are essentially analyzing their own work here and showing me as an instructor how their work fulfills the hypothetical company goals, but also fulfills a set of goals that we've been learning and discussing in business writing. Importantly, students needn't have a graphic design degree to do this assignment. This is something that any intern could be asked to do, and I encourage students to think about how they can do the assignment most efficiently. But if they do wish to explore their own creativity, they have that option here and can do things like create a logo or show their expertise in different ways. I also lay out the objectives, and these are things that are repeated and consistent on all assignments for the unit. So I want them to think about the purpose and, in particular, the appropriate audience for the flyer and the email that they are designing. Secondly, I want them to think about tone and whether both the visual images and the text on the documents are conveying the appropriate tone. Finally, I want them to think about genre and the conventions and styles that they've chosen. Finally, I want them to think about how the document will be perceived and whether or not it's carefully proofread and polished will have an effect on whether or not the document is seen as professional or sloppy. The assessment rubric on this document is also an important element of the assignment sheet. This tells students exactly how they will be assessed and the point breakdown for each component of the assignment. I've listed out 3 general categories and descriptions of those categories that the work might fall into. But more importantly, the descriptions should prompt the elaboration of what specifically that student could have done better. So if the flyer and or the email fall in the advanced category, I might be listing out some minor things that the student could work on. If in the acceptable category, I'm going to want to draw the student's attention to both some things that they did well, but also some issues that require attention. Finally, if either of the documents fall into the needed work category, I would be pointing out a key objective that the students may have missed. I also will be prioritizing those key objectives and probably not listing out minor edits for students that really miss a key objective. So this helps me as an instructor prioritize what I need to convey to students in feedback. So then they can go on to other assignments and continue to improve. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or would like to follow up with me on anything that I describe here in this video, please feel free to reach out to me at my email, which is listed here at the bottom of the screen. You can also find me and other videos that I've created on the Center for Ignatian Pedagogy website.